Hello, everybody. A very, very warm welcome to day 4 of the International Week 2021 of the Institute of Leadership and Management. I believe we have people from all around the world. My name is Maria Katsarou-Makin. I am a fellow at the Institute, but I'm also the founder of the Leadership Psychology Institute. And I will be your host for today's session, which is about how to manage a changing workplace, which I think it's something that is probably of an interest to all of us. To explore this subject, I'm delighted and I'm honored to be joined by our guest, Audrey Clegg. Welcome, Audrey.
Thank you.
Audrey there are many things to say about Audrey. She's a global HR leader and experienced board member with over 25 years of experience in talent, leadership development, and diversity for major listed organizations, including Coca-Cola Hellenic Bottling Company, ABB, and Wellesley Group. Welcome, Audrey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Happy to have this informal chat today, Maria.
It's fantastic. So in today's webinar, obviously, we will have a conversation with Audrey first, but all of you that are listening, feel free to put your questions, and we will have time at the end to answer some of those. So I'll just dive in then, Audrey.
Go ahead. Let's go.
There's a lot going on at the moment in organization. A lot of conversations are happening which have to do with the transition to more flexible working models. So leaders across all levels will be in a position, and they will have to facilitate some of those conversations and with their employees, and try and identify and agree on new models of working for their team, and possibly models that blend individual needs as well, together with business priorities and so on. In your view, what are some of those conversations?
Sure. I mean, it's a complex topic. I think you all know this. I won't tell you anything you don't already know. And if I had a magic answer or a crystal ball, I wouldn't be sitting here in Zurich, Switzerland, which is where I happen to be based now, moving from the UK about 10 years ago, despite the accent. So I'm American by birth, but confused is what I tell people. Half British, half American, but based in Zurich for 10 years. But it is complex. And I guess 3 or 4 points, Maria, go through my mind, because we're 23 months into this. And I think maybe the first point I would start with is COVID accelerated, in my opinion, COVID accelerated something that was already happening anyway. This future of work, this more agile way of working, these more fluid careers, you could feel it coming. It was kind of like a dam, if you will. It was building up, and everybody was talking about the future of work in 2018, 2019. And then all of a sudden COVID hit, and the future of work landed on our desk, everybody in the world pretty much at the same time. So I think in the spirit of that, maybe I'd start with it. It's easy to say now, but part of what went through my mind at the time was never waste a good crisis, right? So it's what things did I want to do anyway at work that would have taken me forever to do, either with stakeholder engagement, meetings, benchmarking sessions, re-influencing and persuading people. And that takes a different mindset. In the beginning, I wouldn't say I felt like that every day. I mean, there were days I was quite frustrated, but there were also days where I thought, I wanted to do this anyway. Can I turn this into an opportunity and go faster? And the one example I'll use is something that we call talent marketplace at Coca-Cola. And if you imagine careers, traditionally in many of our organizations, and depending on your age and many of your life careers, has been more like a ladder. One step, next step, and very much hierarchical. I think part of what COVID accelerated was a much more dynamic, fluid marketplace for careers, where people are moving more laterally to gain critical experiences, to gain different opportunities. So one thing we did at Coca-Cola, back to your point about this flexible work, is we started looking at roles or pieces of work inside Coca-Cola as gigs. You've all heard of gig working.
Of course,
So
yeah.
about a year ago, what we said is let's try gig working inside of CCH, not outside, but inside. So I may be sitting in HR, I'm interested in learning about commercial or finance, or somebody in the supply chain area may need help with this particular topic. I may have expertise or an interest in it. I can apply for that inside Coke, do this for 4 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever the project may be, and really get a chance to learn and grow through that. It was a pilot, and I was stunned at the interest and the desire last year, and something that is, I think, a good example of this never waste a good crisis. So I think back to the point of the question, it's I don't think it's one size fits all. I think it's really understanding the business need first and foremost. You all know that roles aren't created equal. Are you in finance? Are you in HR? Are you in sales? Likewise, people aren't created equal. And it's really having individual conversations with those people. Easy to say, and very hard to do, to understand what are my specific circumstances. What's flexible for me and what's flexible for you, Maria, may have very different definitions. And I think having the open-mindedness as a leader to have those discussions and be brave enough to listen and try to adapt and adjust. Maybe you can't do everything, but maybe you can contract and say, of the 5 things that flexible work means for you, I can do these 2. These 2 are no-goes, and this one, let's work together to find a solution. So those are some of the thoughts that go through my mind, Maria, when I listen to your question.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And thank you so much for sharing what you guys did in Coca-Cola. I really like this, the talent marketplace, and how you describe moving from a ladder hierarchical approach to a more dynamic and fluid marketplace. And if you don't mind me asking if I turn to the person, Audrey, how do you balance your personal and professional life? So what have been some of the challenges that you have faced as a personal and professional, and what did you do?
Yeah, it's a great question. It depends on the day, honestly, that you asked me that question in terms of my answer. I would say, I mentioned it earlier, it's trying to almost recontract with yourself. To say when you have tough days, and you will, or if you have down days, and you do, it's where do you get your energy? I get my energy from being around other people, spending time with the teams. So you can imagine being isolated by myself was not easy. I'm extroverted by nature. So, I really had to find a way to get those doses, if you will, of energy through other means. I think, a good example maybe is I'm more in touch with my family now, chatting, just chit-chatting on the phone, chit-chatting on messages, not anything magic, but I had to really decide, how can I still get that? I can't change what's happening in the world. I can't travel to see my parents in the US for Christmas last year. That's never happened in my life. And I've lived abroad for 20 years. So, I think it's, just adjusting and adapting my approach and managing my energy, I think has been the biggest thing for me. I think, again, I don't have magic answers. You've probably all tried everything. I could probably learn some things from you, but I've tried walking, hiking, music, talking, anything to be able to get some of that energy source. So I think for me, it's also recognizing that it's okay to not have all the answers. And that was a new feeling for me. I mean, I was used to leading a big team. I was used to knowing what to do. And, you know, this was something where I had to be okay to say, you know, I don't know the answer. We need to find a way together, and we may make a mistake. So what? We
Wow.
back up, we go forward again. So, you know, I think this sort of recognizing, one, it's okay to not be okay. And okay to say this. And I think COVID really put this on the table too, the whole point of mental health and well-being, and having these kinds of conversations at work, which in the past weren't quite so normal. So I'm really delighted at Coca-Cola. We launched an employee assistance program last year with tremendous assistance for personal, mental health, financial health, helping people with whatever they need in this new place we're in. So it's trying to take advantage of those moments. I think for me is where I tend to get my energy now.
Yeah, thank you for being so open. What resonated to me in your answer, you talked about energy management, because, you know, we all chase time. We try to manage our time, but we know that there's no way out. But you actually introduced the concept of energy management. So I'm really glad to hear that. And it's so inspiring to hear from a leader like yourself that it's actually okay not to be okay, and you did not have all the answers. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
There's another thing that seems to be of interest, again, because of the different ways of working, is around trust. And I do know that trust is one of those blanket statements where it actually means a lot of things to many people. How, in your opinion, as a business leader, how do you ensure trust between leaders and teams is maintained and, of course, developed in this changing workplace?
I mean, look, for me, I think trust is the fundamental of any relationship, be it business, be it personal. I think it's so easy to say, but it's much harder to feel or get. And I think it is truly a foundation. And I think all teams, many of you on the call will know this, have been tested on this trust over the past 12 to 18 months without having the benefit of body language, eye contact, all of those natural cues and nonverbals that is in our DNA. So we're having to retrain ourselves on what does trust look like and feel like in this type of world. To me, maybe the second part, in jotting down notes, Maria, while you were talking, as I think trust is to me about, can I be authentic? And you asked me about coaching leaders. Can I be authentic, and can I be my real self at work and not be judged? Recognizing I have good days and bad days. I do make mistakes. I am human. And I think being able to share those and disclose those in a professional way to learn and grow. I mean, this is a leadership program that you're all joining, and you know that some of the best ways to learn is by failing and having to reflect and learn from those. So I think the trust part is that I don't have a magic bullet for it, but to me it's the authenticity. And as a leader, can I adjust and adapt my style depending on if Maria's in front of me or Mark's in front of me or Jane's in front of me? Those people are different. And I think trying to help people recognize it's not a cookie cutter approach. It's not one size fits all. Your team is different. Your people are different. They have different desires, hopes, fears, ambitions, and personal situations that mean as a leader, your job is to adjust and direct and try to adjust and adapt and try to get the harmony and be able to have that team performing as a high performing team.
Yes, yeah. And I think without you using the word as such, you made reference to aspects of leaders being vulnerable, because you mentioned, feeling okay to make mistakes. I don't know. So that's vulnerability. And to me personally, that's closely linked with authenticity that you just closed. So yeah, makes sense. And the following question is linked to what we have been talking about, trust. So how in your opinion will leaders best then motivate and engage their teams in this changing workplace? What are some of your tips, or what are some of the things you have seen that work, other things that make don't work?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've mentioned a few already, but to add a different one to the toolkit here, listening to understand. And I think listening's not a new thing. We've been talking about this for 20 plus years in leadership programs and development programs, but really listening to understand. And I think being able to build on those conversations over time, to really understand where the other person is coming from. And I think listening combined with empathy are important things. And here I give you another example. Many of you have probably people on your team with young children, and just watching what they're going through working from home. I can't understand it. I don't have young children running around the house. I have a bit of a luxury problem. It's just my husband and I. There's no people running around, but I just watch and try to put myself in their shoes and try to be more flexible when I can. And I think here it's a bit of a balance, because we all work, many of us work for companies, right? I mean, we're an enterprise. We're not an NGO. We're a company, and we have deliverables and we have targets, and we need to perform. But it's recognizing, when is the company the priority and when is the person the priority. And I think if you can flex in there with people in your teams by really listening to say, hey, this is a difficult week for ABC because of this certain situation. How can I do this in a different way? And thinking creatively about that. And I think that allows people to trust you more when they know you have their back, when they know you understand. It doesn't mean you can always give in. There may be a business need that's brewing that takes priority, or a different time it may be something on the personal side. And here I think the integration of both is more and more fluid. I used to get asked a lot in panels about work-life balance. This is a huge debate. We could spend hours debating this one. For me, at least Maria and I could debate it, at least, and my views, so this will be a repeat for you. I think it's more work-life integration. Last I checked, I'm one human. I mean, I'm Audrey. I have one body. And yes, I have different things I enjoy in different sides of my life, but I need to somehow integrate the two so that they coexist and cohabitate and are happy together. So I think this work-life integration, at least to me, resonates. It's a very personal topic. Everybody has a different view on this, but the one thing I've been able to do across, working from China to Chile and living in 3 different parts of the world and in 3 different companies, very different industries, to me, it needs to be somehow an integration. And when one part is going in the right direction, the other part usually does as well, at least for me. I'd be curious if others in the panel have any tips. Maybe they could teach me some things, but that's what works for me.
The problem, quote unquote, is you and I, we are alike in that, because I'm an integrator as well. We do know that there are what they call segmenters, so people who like to have clear boundaries between life and work. That's, again, as you said, it's about, there's no one size fits all, and it's about adaptability. So yes.
Yes, absolutely. And I wouldn't say what works for me will work for everybody, but I think back to your point about leadership a few moments ago, knowing who in your team is which way. I have about 8 direct reports, and I think I have half-half.
Yes.
Some that are in the middle, depends on the week or the mood, but I do have about half-half in terms of some that integrate and Others are much more, and they need to be. And I respect that they need to be that way, or to manage their energy. That's the way that they feel best. And so this is just listening to understand. If I assume everyone is like the segregators or the integrators, then I think that's a, just a fundamental mistake to make out of the gate.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. There is a question from the audience, which is around talent. And I was thinking, since we have you, if you allow us to pick your brains.
I'll try.
Thank you. The question says, what do you believe will be the challenges in talent acquisition and retention in the future? So I don't know if you have any view on that.
I do. I watched in the summer this thing in social media called the Great Resignation. And I said, that's just social media hype. And I was just telling someone yesterday, I have never seen a labor market like this in my entire career of working. And that's a really long time. I'm old. So it's, I am really amazed. There'll be nice Harvard Business Reviews written about this in a couple of years' time, and I'll with pleasure read it. But I do think there is something real to this concept of Great Resignation. You probably have opinions on why. I think it's probably a combination of pent-up demand. We've got almost 2 years worth of people not moving, fear of changing, roles for security. You've probably got a piece where people just want to change something. Let's face it, 2021 has not been what I thought it was going to be in January 2021. Maybe I was naive, but I do think there is something to it. I think as talent acquisition professionals, in fact, I was on a leadership team meeting yesterday, and we were giving an update on the open positions and available people. And I said, look, what's more important now than external is re-recruiting our internal people. You better be having stay conversations with these people. You almost need to re-recruit the people that you want to retain in your team and really manage regretted turnover. Doesn't mean that it will fix everything, but I think to march along business as usual, at least from what I see, is possibly a mistake. So ensuring, we were yesterday looking at sort of the people that we do not want to lose in the next 12 months, whether they're high performers or not high performers, but they're people that are critical to the business, and almost re-recruiting, having stay conversations with those people, which was a concept from about 10 years ago. If you think about it, sort of the last crisis was something that was there. I think it's time to bring this back. And, I can only hope for Coca-Cola that it settles down soon, but I think we've got a long year ahead in talent acquisition, with everything from shrinking labor markets, particularly in Europe where I sit, as well as, just the supply and demand in terms of the shortage of people that you need for the roles. So I'm not sure if that helps or if that's a gist of the question, Maria, but that's what goes through my mind if I think about talent acquisition.
Yeah, great, thank you. Another question from the audience says, how do you re-engage a high performer who has checked out?
Checked out mentally? Maybe let me brainstorm a moment with myself and with you. I think it's, have they checked out mentally, or have they checked out of the company, meaning they're disengaged? Maybe a couple, if it were a leader in my own company asking me that, and they say, hey, I've got this business problem, what should I do? I mean, I would almost go back to the basics and say, have you talked to the person, and in a very respectful way, to say, are you engaged? How are you feeling about what you're doing? My observation is this, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a personal thing going on that I don't know anything about. Or, if they've got a real business reason for being disengaged, I would start to look at some type of individual development plan, assuming we want to keep that person, to say, what can we do that would excite you for the next 6 months, 12 months? Maybe it's small things. Maybe it's learning something. Maybe it's a cross-functional move, like I was mentioning earlier in this talent marketplace. Often people think the only way to grow is going up that ladder I was speaking about in the beginning. And I think we're in a trap right now with the old mindset of careers up a ladder and the new model coming of more these modular careers, these dynamic careers. So I would really sit and try to come up with a targeted plan with some quick wins and some long-term plans to help re-engage that person so they feel like they're learning and they're growing and they can contribute. If that fails, because sometimes it fails, it's too late, we're not able to be creative enough, people have unrealistic expectations. If I want to be the CFO tomorrow, if that's my desire, that is extremely unrealistic. I'm not qualified, I'm not good at it. And I exaggerate here to make a point, Maria, but I would say sometimes we need to also be okay to let people go. I don't know about you, but sometimes I've worked in teams or places where once you say you want to go, you're almost blacklisted. It's bad. It's a negative feeling. I think what we will see much more normal in 2025 and 2030. If I close my eyes and imagine 2030, I'll be retired by then, so it won't matter. But in 2030, I see people coming and going in and out of companies more in a fluid way based on business demand and need. And I think it's okay if people leave. As long as they leave in a professional way, they have a good transition and a good handover. Who knows? They may be a boomerang. We may bring them back in 2 years' time. They may go out and say great things about Coca-Cola to 400 people. And we hire 400 people and they're not, that person is not in the organization any longer. So I think it's rethinking how we look at transition and moves in a I think a structured manner. Doesn't mean the whole organization can go at the same time or we have a mass exodus, but it's, can we do it in a measured way? Starts to go through my mind.
Yeah, thank you. We only have 3 minutes left, so what I will try, I'll let you think for if there's a parting thought, some a few last words of wisdom that you would like us to leave, and I'll try in the meantime to summarize some of the points that have resonated with me at least. So my personal key takeaways from today is I loved what you said about never waste a good crisis. I like the fact that, and you said it of course not every day is the same, but the fact that you mindset is about how do I turn an opportunity from this crisis. The other one is that not one size fits all. You mentioned bravery in having those conversations with our people. You said, you mentioned management of personal energy, and for you it was about recontracting with yourself. So I thought that was a very powerful message, and how it's okay not to be okay. And then you also made reference to being authentic and the need to adjust and adapt to our people's needs. And it's about listening to understand and with empathy, and how it's about integration, basically. So these are my personal takeaways. So is there a last piece of advice or a thought you would like to leave us with before?
Well, I think if we look at the whole audience, there's probably lots of people that have advice, but maybe the one thing I haven't said that I would say, I had a chance to do a leadership program. It was actually an assessment about a year ago, and I had to draw my career on one page. And what I realized, I think I always knew this, but for the first time, about every 10 years, there's a crisis. And I learned as much from the highs as I did the lows. If I think about the recession in the early 90s, if I think about the tech boom, the tech bust, Now I think about this one. So I think no matter where you are in your career, this is probably not your last crisis to manage through, unless you're going to retire like me. But you know, in 10 years' time, there'll probably be some other crisis of some sort, and I would really try to take advantage of what you can learn.
Wow.
And really, nothing's wasted. You know,
Yes.
what can you look at when you draw your career in 10 years' time that you learn from this particular crisis? So maybe that's the only final comment, Maria, that was going through my mind when I was listening to you.
Yeah.
But I really appreciated the conversation. I appreciate you listening. If I've been able to help anybody in any way, I'm glad. Please keep in touch and reach out if you want to talk about anything in the future.
Thank you, Audrey. It has been a really insightful conversation. I would like to thank everybody for joining us today, and of course for being part of the International Leadership 2021. Of course, you have more opportunity to join the conversation and continue the conversation, so you can go on the site of instituteelm.com and access the hub, and the conversations go on there. And we thank you all, and we hope to see you soon again. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Audrey.